I don't know. He has 1 minute, less than a minute. Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and start the October 29th County Council meeting. First on the agenda is an invocation by Pastor Frank Sabatini from the Element Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike Klinghammer, if you would lead us in that.
Lord, we come to you tonight humbly, recognizing that you are the authority in this land. Father, we just ask that you would heal this land, heal this nation, Father. We lift up the families in Pittsburgh right now for all that's happened there. We ask that you would give them peace and bring joy back into their life. We lift up our state and our cities and our county, Lord. I lift this night up to you that you would be all inside of all the conversations, Lord, that you would be the wisdom and give these men and women courage to make the right choices tonight, Father. There are people on the streets that need help. There are people that are in hospitals right now that need help because of habits. Father, that these men and women would come alongside them and make it easier for them to get back into civilization, so to speak, and become part of this community. I lift this community up to you, this night to you. We praise you. We give you all the glory and all the honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here. I'd like to get a motion to move the county executive's report up the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So that'll be right after the public presentation. And speaking of public presentation, you're on.
I'm the official proclamation reader. It's a pleasure to do it tonight. Whereas the apprenticeship model has been around for a century, but now there is a new and growing awareness about the proven effectiveness of this method for training workers and filling job vacancies. And whereas the U.S. Department of Labor has called for the celebration of the 4th Annual National Apprenticeship Week from November 12th to 18th, 2018 across the nation, and whereas the Missouri Job Center St. Charles County has been approved by the U.S. Department of Labor as a local sponsor of registered apprenticeship programs and is administering an apprenticeship grant program from the Missouri Division of Workforce Development, and whereas Permian Plastics, a growing manufacturing company in O'Fallon, Missouri, was the first local business to begin using the registered apprenticeship grant program available from the Missouri Job Center of St. Charles County, and whereas Permian Plastics will serve as an example to other local employers during the Apprenticeship 101 Breakfast Forum hosted by the Missouri Job Center of St. Charles County on November 16, 2018. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Steve Ellman, St. Charles County Executive, urge all citizens, business, community groups, and elected officials to join in recognizing Permian Plastics for being the first business in St. Charles County to successfully use the Registered Apprenticeship Grant Program, and hereby proclaim National Apprenticeship Week in St. Charles County from November 12th through November 18, 2018. Scott, you have a few more facts here about the company
Yes, indeed, real quick.
and an introduction.
Thank you, sir. So we've got Apprenticeship Week coming up, and it's going to be November 12th, and we decided to honor Permian Plastics, as Steve read, because they're the first company in the county to actually use our apprenticeship grant program. Apprenticeships have been around for a long time, as you all know, but they're a growing way that companies are now finding an opportunity to bring in folks with a little less training and actually skill them up, or use it for existing staff as well. And so we thought, as we get ready for Apprenticeship Week 2018, and we have a host of speakers and events going on for our breakfast, we would bring in Permian Plastic. Ben, if I can have you come up. Ben has been participating in a number of our activities and events, Manufacturing Day and task forces, and he's going to be joining our workforce board as well. And so, Ben, congratulations. Wanted to have you say a few words.
Well, thank you, County Executive, and to the council. Thank you, Scott and Mike, wherever you're at, for getting me involved in the government, county government, and the various task forces, and just various other committees that we can be involved in as business partners. I want to say, on behalf of our ownership, myself and our employees, thank you to the County of St. Charles for. We celebrated our 24th year just last Thursday here in St. Charles County, and we appreciate everything the county does to make it easy to do business here in the county. So I don't have a lot more to say, but thank you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Congratulations.
Kind of spices things up, doesn't he? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to take just 5 or 10 minutes here and present to you the PowerPoint that I presented to the Highway Commission about a month ago. And it really talks a lot about our needs in St. Charles County. And I started out by thanking the Highway Commission, because St. Charles County wouldn't be what it is today without the work that MoDOT has done over the years, starting with that upper left-hand corner. That's the opening of the Blanchette Bridge in 1957. And from that point on, they've continued to do what was needed. They didn't always do it as quickly as we would have liked them to, but in the end it got done. And a lot of, sometimes with a lot of urging from people in county government. Here is the issue that I've talked a lot about recently. And we all know that one of the growing sectors of our economy is this whole logistics thing. We've got Amazon coming to St. Peter's. We've got FedEx in St. Peter's. We have the North Point projects out in Wentzville. We've got Amazon in Hazelwood and over in Edwardsville on the east side. And what you see there in red is the I-70 corridor that is used by the trucks. They don't have to use that, but that's a suggested route. Starts in Illinois, goes out past Wentzville. And in the area between the Mississippi River and Wentzville, you have sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5 lanes of traffic in each direction. The problem is, on both ends, there's a bottleneck. And just to show you the difference here and how the two states are addressing this, the bottleneck on the east is the Chain of Rocks Bridge, which is only 2 lanes in each direction. If you ever tried to go east in the afternoon, you understand you don't want to do that. But that was built in 1966. It has an average daily traffic count of about 58,000. But it's in the long-range plan for Illinois to replace that bridge. And they're talking about, right now, doing the design and all of that. On the other end, we've got Wentzville. And we've got 2 lanes going under a railroad track in Wentzville. So regardless of what we have in between, anybody going west has a real problem. And that was built in 1951. I don't know who's old enough to remember. Well, I don't, before 51, I don't think any of you do. But I guess, I know 40 used to go be Pierce Boulevard, went right through downtown Wentzville. Well, in 51, they said, let's go around the city. And they went under the railroad track. But anyway, that's 1951, and now it carries 82,000 cars per day. okay? It's not on the long-range plan. The point I've been making lately is we're supposed to be the gateway to the West, St. Louis, 2.8 million people. Well, if any of those 2.8 million people want to go west to Columbia or Kansas City, they got to squeeze through 2 lanes under the railroad track. So my point is something needs to be done. Now, MoDOT has been addressing this somewhat. In 2009, they did an environmental assessment. They went ahead and actually put together a plan of how it could be done. They actually bought right-of-way. They actually bought right-of-way there in Wentzville, and you can see, if you're familiar with that, where there's 2 lanes in each direction. You'd go to the left there, and there would be 4 lanes coming in from the west, or maybe 8 new lanes. I'm not sure exactly what they would plan to do, but you double the capacity. The point here again is all the environmental's been done, the concept plan's approved, right-of-way's even been purchased. They just need the money to do it. This is a document that I first saw down at East West Gateway. And this is to show the most congested areas in the region. And if you see, there's 2, number 4 and number 15. One of them is 70, the other is 61, or 61 or 64. And my point was, hey, those are both caused by the same problem, the railroad tracks. So when you put them both together, we're number 2. And John told me the other day, they actually, last month or the last few months, we're up to number 1. So here's the most congested area in the St. Louis region that's not on the master plan yet. We need to work and make sure that happens. I told the Highway Commission, you're probably wondering why I waited till now to do this. Well, our plan over the last 7 or 8 years has been to use the road board funds to provide ways for people in Wentzville to get to their home without going through that bottleneck. And we got Highway in, we got Dave Hokel, P and Piney, a whole lot of things which were designed to get people, St. Charles Countyans, to their home. 17% of the people in the bottleneck are actually from St. Charles County. If you look at it as strictly a St. Charles County problem, that's only 17% of the problem. So this might fix it for 17%, but my point is this is becoming a regional problem. This is just some examples here. St. Louis region, over 14,000 employers in the sectors of manufacturing, wholesale trade, 183,000 employees residing. Those are just some of the new logistic companies in St. Charles County. So this is no longer just a local problem. I mean, this I think is a regional problem and a statewide problem. One of my complaints with MoDOT is they look at safety, they look at congestion, they look at a lot of things, but they don't look at the economic growth benefit of doing a project. And you can see here that when they invest money in St. Charles County, our jobs increased 6.5% last year compared to St. Louis County and St. Louis City. But if you look at our percentage of federal dollars, we've got 100,000 more people soon than St. Louis City, yet they get a higher percentage. And you can see only, 10% of MoDOT dollars for transportation coming here. So I'm just trying to make them aware of that. Okay. Here's another disturbing fact. The Statewide Interstate and Major Bridge Fund, SWIMBY, this is a fund, and whenever you do a big project, they don't count it against your local share. We're supposed to get 29 to 31% of the funding in the St. Louis region every year, okay? But if you have same way, Northwest Missouri is 7 or 8%, I think. But when they built a bridge in Hannibal, they went ahead and took that out of a statewide fund and didn't count it against the northwest part or the northeast part of the state. You can see here they did the same thing when they built the bridge at Washington, okay? They did pay for that. I think we really need to push them that when they do this project in Wentzville, not only do they do it, but they do it with the SWIMBY funds, because it really is a statewide significance, and it shouldn't be counted just against St. Louis region, and definitely not against us. That's the point I tried to make. Obviously, you're going to be discussing the issue of additional funding for MoDOT. The thing that I would add to that is that people look around and they see the MoDOT system and may think, well, it doesn't look like it's in too bad a shape. Well, the reason it doesn't in St. Charles County is in the last, in the last 14 projects that MoDOT has done here, only 5 of them have been funded entirely by MoDOT. The other 9 have been partially funded by MoDOT and then also by us and in some cases the cities. And you know, the one most recently is Piney Road, but the same thing in O'Fallon right now. That's a cost share project. With St. Peter's, we did the Mid Rivers Mall Drive. With St. Charles, we did 5th Street and Fairgrounds. So the point is, you know, if the people think MoDOT looks pretty good right now, it's because we've been paying, they've only been paying 40% of the freight on those 9 projects. And I don't have any regrets. Those are things that needed to be done. They were all good projects. But the fact is, we can't continue to use the road board funds, and the cities can't continue to use their transportation funds for the MoDOT system, because we've got our own county system and their own city system. So I think it's very important to restore the balance here and let MoDOT take care of the MoDOT system, and we'll take care of ours. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Was there any questions about that? Yes.
Steve, the presentation you gave was a really good one, especially with the PowerPoint. Can your staff make that available that we could send that to the cities that we represent? Okay.
We have that.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
I think you did a good job explaining. I think the PowerPoint was really pointed out something that you've heard me harp about quite a bit. So.
Well, again, I think some people are thinking around, well, you know, the roads don't look too bad. Well, the reason they don't is because we've chipped in.
Yeah.
And we can't do it forever. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comments.
Public comment? The
Speakers tonight?
The first speaker is Susan Pasha.
Hello, I'm Susan Pashia. I'm up here because I was taking a walk the other day and I saw this really cute dog in one of those pens, you know, and the dog owner says he can't control it, so the dog's in there 24 hours a day. And I started realizing it's winter. Here we go again. I live in the county. Nobody has to put their dogs in their house. They don't have to do anything but give them hay. Now, my dogs are getting old. It does go. My dogs are getting old, so I started like taking them with me in my car everywhere I go, okay? You wouldn't believe how many cops could call on me. I leave my car on, the AC is blaring, all right? But people call because people care. Problem is, see, you can call and save a dog in someone's car, but you can't in their yard. Now, the people across the way from me, they live in the different Weir County, they're not. Now, I can call all day across the street on them, but nobody can save the dogs in my neighborhood. So I would like you to consider what I'm saying. You know, if it's good enough for the car, it's good enough for the yard, and somebody's got to save these other dogs. We need to have rules like they do that say, hey, you know, leaving a dog outside 24 hours a day makes them violent. We love our pets. They're our babies, and we don't leave them in the yard. And I don't know how you'd fine-tune it with the county and the farm animals and all that. And I'm sure that's probably why we don't have this, you know, settled. But I'm sure you guys can come up with something better than what we don't have. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Good prayer.
Next speaker is Arnie Dienoff.
Thank you very much, members of the County Council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, public advocate and resident. Hate, physical violence, threats, anti-Semitism, bigotry, xenophobia will not be tolerated in our county. What happened in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life on Squirrel Hill in the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my heart goes out to those families. And we need to protect our community here in St. Charles County and make sure nothing like that happens here. Unfortunately, hate and anti-Semitism came out from some city council members in the city of O'Fallon. And I think that we will not condone and we will not allow that to happen. We will not allow hate and xenophobia to take place in our county of 425,000 residents. Excuse me, Mr. Cronin, I'm speaking.
Pardon me.
On your agenda, under Road and Boards is the Gateway Greenlight Program. We've spent $10 million in a program that is ineffective and a waste of taxpayer money. I ask that you vote no against it. Resolution 18/12 is a 10-cent increase, a $1,200 annual increase to every household in St. Charles County. Vote no on the transportation bill, Proposition D. Look around the room. As you see, you are all men, including the county executive on the council. There are no women elected, even though our county has 54% of women residents. I encourage my fellow voters to elect to the county council women to fairly represent our county and members of the county council that don't fall asleep at the dais and don't want to run home to their fancy couch with their $17,500 salary. Our government should be representative of our community. Steve Eldman's pitch is he has the lowest county government budget in the state.
Mr. Chairman,
That is not
We don't
true.
do political speeches up there.
That is
We're
not
we
true.
don't personally
He
attack
states that
people.
jobs, that he has
Chairman.
jobs that sought for
Chairman.
we are a sought-out county
Mr.
across the
Chairman.
country. We had the highest paid director of
Mr. Chairman.
administration, $188,000 salary. Yes, sir?
This, we don't do political speeches and we don't.
It's my freedom of right. Ask your county counselor. There are Supreme Court cases that say that I have the right of free speech.
We don't personally.
$68,000
Mr.
more
Chairman.
than Missouri Commissioner of Administration, Mrs. Lycum makes. More than St. Louis County, a population of 950,000, and more than Jackson County, a population of 700,000. Government waste and fraud, what a joke. We have fraud here in our county, and you allow it to happen.
Mr. Chairman.
You
we do not
have
do
your hand out
personal-
for
we do
more
not
money
do
at the
personal
federal and
attacks up
state
at the
level.
dais. We do not do that.
I ask
We don't
this
allow
county
that, Mr.
vote
Chairman.
yes for state constitution proposition
do
number
political
1.
speeches
a
on the
clean
dais.
Missouri and a clean St. Charles County. Fair, honest, dignified, and a transparent measure. State Proposition D, vote no. It has to deal
That's
with metal.
Mr. Chairman.
It's
Mr.
$125
Chairman.
million goes
Hey,
to law enforcement.
That's it. You're done. Sit
No,
down.
You
No,
took up
sit
a
down.
minute of my time from interrupting
no,
me,
we don't
Mr.
do
Chairman.
political
I
speeches
would
on
like
the dais. We
another
don't do
30
that.
seconds to complete what I have to say.
No.
According to Robert's Rules of Order, I'd like a vote of the council to allow me to continue my speech. I was interrupted rudely by Mr. Cronin and by Mr. Brazel.
Well, we don't get up here and give political speeches, and I don't think,
There is law at the United States Supreme Court that says that I'm allowed to speak.
There's also a law that says we don't have to allow public comments at all, okay? So do
Then go
you,
ahead and do it, and I'll get a constitutional amendment for our charter to put it on
Yeah,
the next
you-
ballot.
Chairman, he's done. Just his 3 minutes.
I would
up.
like a vote of the
We don't
council to allow me to
personally
speak
attack
for 30
anybody. We
more
don't do
seconds,
personal
because I was
attacks.
interrupted 3 times.
you've talked at least 30 more seconds.
Are you gonna allow
what
me-
else do you have to talk
allow me to
about?
speak for
If
30
you're not
more
going to
seconds?
personally attack people, that's fine.
Excuse me, Mr. Elman, did you have something to say?
Steve,
No, I'm waiting for a ruling.
Yeah, point of order.
I'm waiting
Yeah.
for a ruling also.
Point
Yeah,
of
you-
order, the 3 minutes.
David, he's done.
I was interrupted 3 times, Mr. Hollander.
Sit
I
down.
expect to get my time.
Sit down or you'll be removed.
I'm asking for a vote of the council.
Well, we don't do votes for that.
Yes, we do. Robert's Rules of Order calls for a vote.
I'm saying sit down.
I'm asking
Or
for a
talk
council-
about
I'm
something
asking for a
else other than
council vote.
doing personal
My final item
attacks.
is Proposition D.
It's
Vote
30
no.
seconds.
It deals with $125 million that goes to law enforcement, not roads and bridges. It creates a freight commission, a fund, another bureaucracy. It will cost 10-cent increase on every gallon of gas, $30 a week to each household, $130 per month increase, a $1,300 yearly increase to each household. This is a new tax on top of the 17 cents.
I believe that's
All
30
right.
seconds.
Time's up.
I'd move on here.
Okay, I'm fine.
There, you got your 30 in.
I didn't even have my 30 seconds, so it's a shame. You live in America, not Germany.
Oh, my gosh.
Any other speakers?
No, I'm sorry, that's all.
Okay, we'll close public comment. You know, let's move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to accept.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is Resolution 1812.
Resolution 1812, sponsored by council as a whole, a resolution in support of Proposition D to fund Missouri's transportation system. Whereas the condition of Missouri's transportation infrastructure is a concern for the St. Charles County Council and for individuals and businesses that rely on the safety of our roads and bridges, and whereas Missouri's poor transportation conditions are hurting our economy and threatening public safety, and whereas our transportation system becomes more expensive to fix and more dangerous each year we continue to do nothing, and whereas the Missouri Department of Transportation has the nation's 7th largest highway network to support with funding that ranks 46th in the nation in revenue per mile, and whereas Missouri currently collects 17 cents per gallon, and this rate is one of the lowest in the nation and has not been raised since 1996, and whereas over those years, the purchasing power has effectively dropped to 7 cents per gallon due to inflation and vehicle and fuel efficiency, while the cost of construction materials such as asphalt, concrete, and steel have doubled and labor costs have risen considerably, and whereas in recent years since 2012, the Missouri Department of Transportation has completed 14 major projects in St. Charles County, but because of the revenue constraints on the Missouri Department of Transportation, 9 of those 14 were completed only because 60% of the funding was contributed by St. Charles County and local municipalities, thereby diverting county and municipal funds from their own transportation projects. And whereas to address the state's transportation funding shortfall, the Missouri General Assembly passed House Bill 1460, which includes Proposition D, implementing a 2.5 cent per gallon increase each year for the next 4 years to go toward public safety as well as road and bridge construction and maintenance. And whereas without additional state funding, the Missouri Department of Transportation will continue to struggle with its need to maintain its existing roadways, yet address major improvements needed to fix safety and congestion problems, such as the bottleneck on I-70 in Wentzville or reconstruction of Route End. And whereas if passed by Missouri voters, Proposition D is estimated to generate $288 million annually for the state road fund and $122 million annually for local transportation projects. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the St. Charles County Council supports Proposition D on the November 6, 2018 ballot.
Any comments? Go ahead.
I worked on this with John Greifsue and some help from some other folks. And I tell you how this came about at the ribbon cutting for the Highway P overpass. And I was involved in that from the beginning, along with John Greifsue. Had an opportunity to talk to some MoDOT officials about a lot of other transportation needs in my district. And quite frankly, they are very worried because in fact they're simply running out of funds because they're getting the same amount of money that they were getting years ago, and the cost of materials and work and everything's gone up. So in my district alone, Highway M can be completely rebuilt. They did surveys on it, and it's completely crumbling. 79's full of potholes. P is way undersized for the capacity that it carries. And then the bottleneck in Wentzville that Mr. Elman mentioned is a huge problem that I think is going to start economically strangling this county, just no different than the Blanchette Bridge problems did years ago. So 2.5 cents per a gallon extra on a fuel is something I think most voters are going to be willing to pay, and I think it'd be good to keep the prosperity of this county going. A penny and a half, the fuel changes out that much day to day anyway, and I think MoDOT's been pretty clear about it that the future is pretty bleak unless they get additional funding. And this is the fairest way to do it because you're only going to pay it if you buy fuel. So rather than a sales tax or property tax, this way you buy more fuel, you pay a little more. I have a fleet of trucks in my business. This is going to cost me a lot of money if this passes, but I'm glad to vote for it, and so will the people work for me, because our roads need help, and MoDOT does a great job, and this is just supporting MoDOT in that effort, and hopefully the voters will listen to the message that this resolution, sets forth.
Thank you. Councilman Brazel?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. I know that a lot of Republicans, which I'm a strong Republican, however, you can say, oh, it's against the grain to raise taxes, but sometimes there's got to be common sense over anything. And on this tax, this is, like Mr. Cronin said, this is a use tax, so you're paying for as much as you use it. So that's one important factor. And the other factor is taxes haven't been raised on our highways in over 20 years. And if you drive to the lake or go to Columbia on a regular basis, Highway 70 is not like a highway anymore. It's like a boulevard. It doesn't move real fast, and it's not good. And you'll sit in traffic on a weekend going down to the lake. It's just unbelievable. There's even a bottleneck going into Kingdom City, and it's just not good. And we can't have a state like that. We gotta evolve into the millennium, for God's sakes, And so it's important for this tax to go through. Anybody with any kind of sense would know that.
Yes, Councilman.
I'd like to point out one other thing. It's not just it's just not an inconvenience. It slows everything down. But that slowdown on the highways results in more rear-end collisions. When there's stoppages on the highway, that's when people run into the back end of people all the time. So it's convenience, yes, it's time, yes, but just as importantly, if not more importantly, it's a safety issue, and we really need to take care of our roads. They're starting to strangle us. We're not getting businesses to come here also because our roads are in such terrible shape.
Thank you. Councilman Hollander?
Yes, this is something that obviously should have been addressed in the state legislature, many, many different times over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's just been ignored. The truth of the matter is 2.5 cents per gallon. A lot of times that our gas prices fluctuate. We don't even notice the 2.5 cents now, all right? And second of all, I think that, we have to be willing to pay for better roads. And obviously, this is something that 47th in the nation is kind of embarrassing when it comes to our highway structure, that we rank 47th in the nation. So I certainly strongly support this resolution.
Thank you. Anybody else?
People that don't want to vote for this and don't want to pay the tax, they can drive an electric car.
Or they drive a bicycle.
Okay. We just need to vote on this.
Correct. A resolution in support of Proposition D to fund Missouri's transportation system. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Yes. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Thank you. Bills for final passage. First bill is 4653. Would you please read?
Bill number 4653, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 1809.
Any comments or questions on this bill? Hearing none, please read it again and call the roll.
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District per application RZ 1809. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4654.
Bill number 4654, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District per application RZ 1811.
Any comments or questions on this? Hearing none, please read and call the roll.
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District per application RZ 1811. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
That bill passes. Moving on now to bills for introduction. The first bill is 4655.
Bill number 4655, requested by Craig Tekowski, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance establishing new traffic regulations and establishing penalties for violations thereof.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, let's move on to Bill 4656.
Bill number 4656, requested by council as a whole, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance amending the 2018 budget adopted by ordinance 17-113 for a position within the St. Charles County Council Department.
Any comments or questions on this bill? Hearing none, move on to announcements and miscellaneous. Are there any announcements?
Oh, I would like to say I was at the park opening that we had. Steve and Ryan did a great job, and Steve and Mike and John you guys did great speeches. You guys did a great job. It was that you guys. This park is just unbelievable. The only complaint I have, Steve, is I had my 9-year-old daughter with me and I couldn't get her to leave. That's my biggest complaint.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought your complaint was going to be it wasn't in your district.
Yeah.
I also
Mr. Brazel did actually make the comment that I asked him if he wanted to make a little speech too, and he said, "No, that's right. I got plenty of parks in my district." I said, "You noticed, huh?"
I just like to want to point out, yesterday, my wife and I, it was a beautiful day, so we actually visited our 2 new parks. We went to Kisker. Unbelievable. It is just unbelievable. And then we went out to New Melle, and that is a very, very beautiful, beautiful place out there. So we enjoyed the day yesterday by visiting our 2 newest additions, and they're certainly certainly impressive.
All right.
Can I ask
Yes.
Ryan do you mind coming up here for just a second? So we were talking beforehand, and I remember, I think it was about 2 years ago, that county executive laid out this big map for us to look at where he circled all of the county parks that we had. And we looked at the highest population areas around those. And we thought this park was going to be very popular with Veterans Tribute Park. But you were telling me about some stats that happened, and I wanted you to just kind of talk about those a little bit.
We've had unprecedented use of the park. It's been great. On Saturday, the October 20th, was our park opening. Saturday and Sunday, we had over 15,000 people come through the park in those 2 days. Since that time, it's been steady pretty much every day. I went through about 5:30 on a Tuesday night and counted 187 cars. So that's pretty good.
And how many parking spaces do we have?
About 220 roughly. So it's a good problem to have. So we're glad people are getting out there and enjoying the park. So
I just wanted to give you an opportunity to crow a little bit because this month especially, your department has really done yeoman's work in all the different events that you've had scheduled and things that you've had going on, doing a grand opening and ribbon cutting at this park. I know there's been a ton of stuff, so Parks Department really needs to be commended for the great job that you guys have done. And I wanted to give you an opportunity, just
thank you.
Take a bow if you will, because you guys are
Thank you, appreciate it. October 20th was probably the busiest day in Parks Department history. We had the grand opening of Veterans Tribute. It was also our Spirits of the Past night, which we set an attendance record at Spirits of the Past down at the Daniel Boone Home. And then our Hayride Hoedown, which happened the same night, was sold out 2 weeks in advance at Bromelseck.
Wow.
So
What was your attendance at Spookfest?
I don't know off the top, 800, something like that. That's what you told me. Something like that.
Good.
So,
Oh, that's
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
question. Which park is it that they caught the big fish in?
New Melle.
New Melle.
New Melle.
Okay. All right. There's a tip for everybody.
Thank
Some
you.
great fishing.
Any other comments or
Motion to adjourn.
second? Motion to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Good luck on your company.
Staying here?